of the continuances. With me tonight is Joseph Spangenberger, a principal at Watermark, and I wrote this down, a registered professional civil engineer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and he can get into more of the detail, the specifics of the applicability. This is right around the corner here on the point. The applicant's looking to purchase from the city the parcel and build a 5 to 7 story building. This is the necessarily filing to keep things moving as it would be. And basically, as I said, Mr. Spangenberg is here to answer questions. Watermark, you may or may not know, is a business in Lowell. Joe and John started in 2001. It's coming up on 15 years. And just the two of them, they're now have grown to over 80 employees and are looking to expand and their not only their business, but move and keep it in Lowell, basically. And they would be an anchor tenant in this building. As I said, this is the first step in keeping the process going. I'll turn it over to Mr. Spangenberger had a submission tonight, and he's been out of town much in the last couple months on a project in Virginia. So I apologize for the short notice on the letter, but he's here to explain if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm a little sorry you turned off the music. That was pretty good. So the application was submitted back in March 16th. And then we provided some supporting information in the form of a letter that dated today. The purpose of the letter was just to identify an opinion that the property is not within the limit of a property being subject to flooding. Similar properties in the area have had a similar determination by other engineers, and we've attached their information. In essence, I agree with the Meridian Associates engineer, indicating that the canal itself is a man-made structure and that it is controlled with gates and therefore not to be considered, the property adjacent should not be considered a land that is subject to flooding.
We have historically considered our canals as applicable under the Act.
All right, I was under the impression that prior applications with a similar statement that it...
We may find that it's not going to be a negative impact, but
Okay.
I think we still would expect to keep control over the wetlands aspect of it.
Okay. Well, certainly during construction, prior to construction, there would be an erosion and sediment control plan that would be prepared, and erosion measures would certainly be set up during foundation construction, et cetera, until the property is stabilized. So those measures, I'm sure, would be part of the requirement for building on the property.
We have very little information about, just have the number of stories on the building, and I'm not sure what this red line is. A lot line, is it? Or there's no building located on here?
It is a lot line. The building itself will be covering the majority of the property. It's all conceptual at this point. There are a number of different schemes that have been developed, but they haven't been put forth as part of this application at this point.
So would this be parcel 11, or is it a combination of parcels on this other plan that you submitted?
I believe it's just that one parcel. That's not a combination of a couple of parcels, is it?
Which one is she referring to?
Let me see.
Is this from another? This is from another project, though, I think.
Yes, it is just one parcel. My understanding is it's one parcel.
Parcel 11, is that?
I believe
So. I'd have to look at
Okay.
the map that you're looking at to confirm.
So we would be concerned with your erosion control along the canal
Okay.
And any plans you might have during construction that would endanger things falling into the canal, what plans you might have for controlling stray materials and stockpiled materials.
Certainly, we'd expect that. So as part of the plans and specifications, there would be a requirement to meet the needs to not have anything into the canal. And the plans would show erosion and sediment controls that would be put in place, appropriate laydown areas, and at that time, any other controls that need to be put in place to meet the requirements that you just mentioned would be established.
And if I may, I believe the parcels are parcels 17, 17A.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it?
you can ask them.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
How close is the building going to be to the canal?
I can't answer that based on the different concepts. That's still being worked out, exactly how close.
Okay.
But the building itself will be within a few feet, certainly, of the property edge.
There wouldn't be room for green space in between?
Again, the concepts are very, they haven't been fully vetted out to that level yet.
Okay.
Right.
No, that answered my question.
Jeff? I'm feeling like I have very little information here to work on. I know the canal is much easier to protect than a wetland riverfront area. But I'd like to, you know, if it's determined that this could be a -3, I'd like to get conditions in there that would, like you say, you don't have a conceptual plan of the building. I'd like to get some conditions in there that would protect the canal no matter what type of building you have.
Understood.
And you would, most of the buildings in that area try to have a walkway or some kind of green space along the canal, which I think would be a good idea, but you know, certainly that
can't
isn't
speak
something
directly
you
to the
want
concept,
conditioned,
but-
I wouldn't think.
Yeah. I would imagine there would be, but I can't speak directly to the concepts. Unfortunately, just to the application and what I have in front of me at this point. But I understand the conditions that you just mentioned are certainly, they're not onerous, and we would expect to have those conditions as part of requirements to build on the property. That no sediment, that no debris, that no building materials, or any other materials from the property are entering the canal. And that we set up controls to make sure.
About how wide is your lot there? Do you know? Would you have a problem, for instance, keeping things 25 feet from the canal, stockpiled materials?
I don't know the dimensions of the property well enough to be able to state that, but if there are erosion protection measures that are set up along the canal walls such that no debris or sediment could wash into the canal, I would hope that that concern regarding stockpiling wouldn't be as a great a concern. And I'm expecting that there will be erosion and sediment control around the perimeter of the property, certainly.
Madam Chair, if I might add, one of the challenges at the site is also going to be the fact that the construction of this building will be done simultaneously with many of the city's improvements. So there's going to be a lot of activity out there. And the site looks fairly large, but a portion of that, the city's going to be putting a temporary parking surface down, and there's going to be, we don't know if a trolley's going to go there or not, but there's a right-of-way. There's a lot of things that need to be worked out. There's going to be a lot of activity that needs to be kind of work together, and it might make the site tight in terms of putting it on
Well-
areas where the construction's not going to be done.
We'll try to state it in such a way that that isn't a problem.
Okay, thank you.
When do you think you'll have a conceptual plan done for the building?
I'd say within the next 30 to 60 days. I wouldn't know of a time frame any less than that.
Okay, because I'm just finding it pretty tough to have any questions to go off of without a conceptual plan getting
No, I
closer to
understand.
river.
Oh, no, the bridge would be.
Good.
I think they already have a bridge on
Being a fairly small footprint, you can imagine the building itself will be taking up the majority of the property. Most of the concepts that I had glimpsed showed that. I just don't have any details for you at this point.
No, there's gonna be a bridge going in right next door, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so next to the parcel, I think. That
Oh,
bridge isn't there yet.
No, no, oh, I know the bridge you're talking about.
They'll have access, so we could drive to Jackson Street from that. We're gonna make access over here too.
That's part of the construction the city will be doing. It's about, I think, $2.5 million worth of improvements.
They had some elaborate plans, I remember, to keep stuff out of the canals.
Yeah, what do they call those? Trash
forget.
or something?
It was like, there's wheels on them. Oh, I forget. You know what they're called?
Okay, well, so far, what I've got is erosion control along the canal side, stockpiled materials to be covered and circled with erosion control if they're left there for more than 24 hours. And I'm not sure what you call these things, but when people are working on the sides of buildings next to the canal, we usually have some kind of a trash trap. I'm not sure what they call those things, like a netting that could catch things that would fall as they're working on that side of the building. Can you help me with the vocabulary there? What
I
they
think
call
a trash catcher of some sort, you can put in
trash
trash
catcher?
catcher. Yeah, that's close enough to it.
It's a technical term.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, do you want me to repeat those, anybody? Repeat those suggested conditions? Anything else? Since this is new construction, I don't feel it's as much of a problem as it would be should you be rehabbing a building that might have who knows what kind of materials in there exactly on the canal wall where this looks like there's I don't know whether it's just the drawing, it looks like there might be 6 or 8 feet between your property line and the canal wall. Is that the case? Or is it just the way this is depicted?
It would be hard to get the dimensions from that scale drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to repeat perhaps for Christine, that we would definitely need some erosion control along the canal, which would
That's
be
expected.
kept in good condition and stay in place for the duration of the project.
Certainly.
We'd need to have any stockpiled materials of a loose nature covered and circled with erosion control if they're to be left in place for more than, I'm thinking 24 hours. Is that unreasonable?
Can you expand that just a little bit? One day is very tight in order to be able
Okay.
to control. You give us more like 72 hours, or in the case that
Okay.
rain is impending?
Set more than 72 hours?
Yeah. That would be
I'm
better.
thinking that those particular stockpiled materials, we would appreciate having them back from the canal walls.
Chances are, given the size of the site, most of the surplus material would be put in a truck and trucked off. There really isn't there isn't enough space there for that much stockpile material. So
And
I imagine a lot of it will be trucked off anyway.
when you get to the point where you're siding or doing anything that has loose materials that might fall into the canal, it might be trash traps in place of a variety that will catch those materials before they enter the water.
Certainly.
Is there anything else you're concerned about?
No, ma'am. I think that's very reasonable. I appreciate that. One thing I would add, name of the company is Watermark Environmental. We are an environmental company, and we understand these requirements. We understand what is necessary to protect water resources. So I think you'll find that we would likely go above and beyond even what you would suggest to make sure that nothing happens and
And I like
the
that you're
water's
local.
not polluted. And we're Lowell guys, yeah.
So
Don't let John.
with conditions then, unless, would somebody like to make that motion, and we'll second it, then we'll have a chance for discussion?
I move to give a -3 determination with those conditions.
Great.
Second on that?
I'll second the motion for the -3 determination.
No discussion, or is this enough protection for the board, or do we want to see more complete plans?
I think as long as you keep in touch with us with the plans, as you get the conceptual plans, if you could come back and show us as you go, or show the office,
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
perhaps we could have that as a fourth condition, that as soon as plans are available, that you send in a set to the planning department,
Yeah,
so that we can keep track of what's going on with the project.
Certainly.
that'd be
No
great.
problem at all.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Okay. This is an RDA. We don't need to ask for input from the public, but if there's anyone here that would like to speak on this proposal at 221.4 Jackson Street for a 5-story building in the Hamilton Canal District, would you come forward now? Okay, seeing no one wishing to speak on this, I guess we're ready for the board to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The board is voting unanimously for a -3 determination on this project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a project by Bayera Rio Trust at 26 Andover Street to construct a deck adjacent to the Concord River within the 100-foot buffer zone. I understand this has been a request for a continuance. Okay, we don't need to vote on that, I don't think. Do we?
I think we just need to motion to continue it to the next
Okay,
meeting.
motion to continue, please.
Second.
Okay, how about a first?
Motion to continue, sorry.
Seconded.
Okay, first by Jeff, seconded by Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is an enforcement order for David Owen, 26 Old Ferry Road. This was a violation of the best kind, the best intentions of building garden beds in the floodplain. Mr. Owen was here at the last meeting and had a very interesting proposal, and we have now gotten more concrete figures and diagrams on that proposal. Would you like to just explain what your proposal is one more time?
Just proposing the,
Would you
removal.
state your name, please?
oh, David Owen, 26 Old Ferry Road. Nice to
Thank
see you
you.
again. At the last meeting, you requested a side profile of the slope with the existing slope versus the proposed modification to make compensation for the planting beds, and that is what I have provided. based on the measurements, the exact measurements, actually, it's, comes out to 300, almost roughly 345 cubic feet per 1 foot of elevation, which was, the original plan was we needed 600 total, 300 at each foot, plus or minus 5 to 10% variant, or plus 5 or 10%, so we're well within that number.
So you're providing more compensation, slightly more?
Slightly more, just to make sure I don't fall under.
I actually think the slope looks more stable the way you have proposed it than it does the way it is presently.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, it's a little bit less gradual, or extreme, I guess.
So I guess, first of all, if there's any discussion on this proposal that Mr. Owen has provided us, any comments or concerns?
Oh, this looks great. Looks like exactly what we were trying to do last time.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with this at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Will this cover the fence, or are you doing a separate thing for the fence?
The far end of the line is where the fence compensation was going to be.
Okay. So it's all one?
Yeah, it's all one straight through section, 100 feet long.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you were throwing a curveball moving into that house, but
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise.
I think it's all worked out.
I just want to comply.
So my only question then now is that we have a very nice chart, and we have some pictures from last time.
Yep.
But we don't have an official wetlands law document on file from you.
I was told to wait until we had a final plan and then submit one final, so I didn't have to keep editing it. So
Okay, so
I do have the electronic copy from Christine, and
you have the
ready to fill that
document.
up.
Is
Yes,
that
I do.
our request for determination that you're filing? Is that what you?
I don't know where we landed with what I need to file this time. If it's a
So-
notice of intent, or,
We have had sufficient public meetings, so I do think it's possible for you to issue a determination tonight. But if you would feel more comfortable, we could have him file an RDA and then use these plans. Or you can have him file an entire notice of intent. He has all the information that's required for.
Okay, I think what we probably could do is maybe accept this document that's been provided us as an response to the enforcement order, because that was the gist of the enforcement, was that you were filling in the floodplain, and you have a proposal here of how to mitigate that. However, that work has not happened yet.
Correct.
So I would think that the enforcement order would stay in effect until you're able to complete the compensation.
no problem.
And in the meanwhile, you could probably get that form into Christine, and then we would have a full packet for the file. And at the next meeting, we could both address the request for determination and lift the enforcement order, should the work be completed by then.
Are we doing an RDA, or?
I think an RDA is our only option here,
Okay,
right at the moment that I can think of, that's official,
okay. I can fill all that out.
yeah. So that will have to be published, right?
Yeah, there'll be a legal ad in the paper.
Yeah, so if you get those papers in, we could get it on the next agenda.
Okay, so I'll fill everything out
However,
and send it
if
to you?
you might want to just get the papers in and then request to be on the agenda a month from now, say, if you can't get the work done. It'd be
So-
nice if we could wrap it all up at once.
Well, that's the question. Am I filing the form and getting it approved, or am I just going forward with doing the work?
I think we can approve your plan,
Okay.
your conceptual
I
plan
wasn't sure if that
tonight.
form had to be approved before I did
Yeah,
anything.
you can do the work under the mitigation of the enforcement order.
Okay,
We'd like to know when you're going to do the work, so if you could give a call to the office to
Yeah, I'll-
Christine
I'll work with Christine
what day
and
you plan
fill
to
it
do
out
it,
and
and then someone can
come by and take a look.
buy,
No problem.
see how it's going.
Excellent.
So I don't know if have we had enough time to look over these facts and figures? Does anyone have any comments or concerns? So I think we probably could have a motion to approve this mitigation of the violation.
Motion to approve the mitigation of this violation.
Okay, in a second.
Seconded.
All right, no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so if the neighborhood sees a big machine out there, that's Mr. Owen mitigating his violation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a notice of intent continued from May 25th by Vision Development. The project location is 1 Merrimack Plaza. This is a large dormitory, privately run dormitory proposal.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. My name is William Martin, attorney at offices at 21 George Street here in Lowell. I represent Vision Development. We have some plans. Would it be okay if we set up in here? Is that
I think, yeah.
okay?
Right in front of those others would probably be good.
So that's Evan Watson from Prime Engineering. While he's getting that set up, if I could just talk a little bit briefly about the background of this project. As you said in the announcement, we propose to build privately owned student-purposed housing and make it available for college students who attend school here in Lowell. We expect that UMass Lowell students would be the primary users of this, although we would certainly welcome students from Middlesex, or if there were other institutions of higher learning, we'd take those students as well. Vision Development is based in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. They've completed a number of these projects for the state, near a state university in Pennsylvania, near Wake Forest University in North Carolina, and most recently in Worcester, Massachusetts. The Worcester project serves a number of schools in Worcester. It's drawn a lot of interest from students at UMass Medical, and just opened over Memorial Day weekend. The first students moved in. Our project here in Lowell is at the site of what was occupied by the Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank, before that Fred C. Church, before that Union National Bank, across the street from Lowell High School. It's approximately 205,000 square foot building on 5 stories. Our site comprises the bank building site that exists now in the parking lot, which has frontage on French Street. In between those 2 parcels is the Merrimack Canal. Runs down along Lucy Larkham Park, and then right in front of our proposed building turns and runs parallel with the river, then turns again, and the Merrimack Wasteway runs to the river. So that's the primary resource that's impacted tonight. We have had submissions and comments back from staff, and we think we've adequately addressed the concerns raised by the staff. And I'll let Evan get into the details, and he or I be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Evan Watson from Prime Engineering. We're in Lakeville, Massachusetts. So as Bill said, we have actually submitted a full set of design plans. It's been under review by site plan review in the planning board, and also a special permit from ZBA and a variance. So here we have a cover sheet. It basically shows the locus of the site. So we're this blue spot here. Songus Arena is to the northwest, Merrimack River to the north, and then the main Merrimack Canal comes right through the site here. So we have an existing conditions plan. that shows the existing Lowell 5 bank or access down here from French Street. The property is currently developed with a existing parking lot. Drainage from the site's picked up by a series of catch basins and discharges into what's known as the Merrimack Wasteway, immediately adjacent to the boot mills. We have a demolition plan, which also shows our erosion control and dewatering methodologies. Before the bank was constructed, the site was actually part of the boot mill development. So the boot mill was here, it extended past this site, and actually the Merrimack Canal used to come right through here and where the Princeton Plaza project site is now. So because of that, there's actually some existing foundation walls that are buried underneath the site. So the plan is, the reason why we have a special demolition plan is to alert the contractor that there'll be some underground things in their way. And so the idea here is to, in phases, excavate the material that's, you can imagine, unsuitable to place a foundation on, have it processed on site, and be put back in an appropriate way that we could put a foundation on. If there was anything that we found that wasn't suitable for a foundation that couldn't be left on site, we would have that evaluated and either brought off site, or if it was impacted with any type of material. Obviously this is a mill building that had a lot of things going on, so if we discovered anything, my firm, we have LSPs on staff, so we would have somebody come out and take a look at that and be disposed of properly. The plan shows a construction entrance at the site. We show perimeter controls all the way around. Again, the canal is right here. It spills down under this bridge and heads off to the Merrimack River. So I did not place an actual stockpile location on the plan because it's going to be in phases. So you can imagine we're excavating here, stockpiling here, we're excavating here, stockpiling here. So I did put a couple notes on the plan. We're going to do excavation in stages, soil processing done on site, and stockpiles to be protected from eroding off site. At no time shall stockpiles be placed outside the limits of the property. And then shall dewatering be necessary, dewater shall discharge not be directed into the canals or the drainage system. Dewatering discharge to be treated by directing water into a frac tank settling basin or dewatering bag prior to discharge. On-site infiltration stormwater is preferred. So that's our plan during construction.
Evan, what sheet is that, just so they can follow along there? The demolition?
That was on sheet 2.
Okay.
The demolition plan, which showed the erosion control. So sheet 3 shows the layout. Again, it's the same orientation with the canal around this side here. So we have our proposed student housing building. We're going to bring access with a little cutout underneath on the first floor, so there'll be a cantilevered portion of the building above to come around. There is going to try and improve the pedestrian walkways, pedestrian access by adding a pedestrian way here. There's also an exit from the building in the middle, which would have a pedestrian plaza with places for students to congregate, as well as a patio right at the edge of the canal. Right there, coming from the boot mill, there's actually a waterfall that comes down and under here, so you can actually hear some of the water moving through there. It's pretty nice.
I just have one question. Are there going to be any trees planted on site?
We have a landscaping plan I can get to.
Okay.
Yep. So the next plan is a grading and drainage plan. So it shows the grades of the site. The grade is at approximately elevation 90 or so, 89. I think the building's at elevation 90, and we're planning, and the parking lot's around 87. So our building's at about 87, and then the grades tie into the existing grades around the site. To pick up stormwater, we have a couple areas here. This area here where we're actually have some dirty storm water from traffic areas going to be picked up by a catch basin here and here and be brought into a Hydro First Defense separator unit, which can provide 80% TSS removal. The pipe comes back around here where it joins the roof drain. That is clean runoff. And that also picks up drains in the plaza area, which again is considered essentially clean runoff. And then that gets picked up with the other drains to a manhole and then discharges back into the canal as in the existing condition. The next sheet is a utilities plan, which shows how the utilities are brought to the site. I can skip over that. Sheet 6 is the landscaping plan. So as you can see by the layout plan, there's actually little opportunity to do a lot of landscaping. So interior in the plaza, we're creating a pedestrian-friendly area, and where we can, we have planters and we have planting beds, and we have a litany of plants here. The grass, because it is in between two relatively high, vertical walls, we're proposing more of a synthetic grass type, something that won't give us trouble growing. I mean, the other option would to be a stone type of thing. Along the actual wall on this side, we have some trees that we selected. I think we have triple monarch birch here at the corner, and then we have some low shrubs. We didn't want to plant trees that would grow too high next to the wall, because obviously you can imagine their roots would damage the wall, and as they age, they can fall over and damage the wall. On the south side, we have some foundation plantings, all different, like spireas and dwarf boxwoods and cotoneaster, things that are at the pedestrian level. And then in between the building and the canal on this side, we actually have the trolley, and then we were going to develop the bottom with, if we came up with some granite pieces out of the excavation, we would develop that as a little seat wall there.
So now for that tree on the corner, how much space is that gonna have to grow? I'm just curious because, like, especially around that area, I noticed a lot of trees that have been planted in the past kind of really don't have any room to grow.
Yeah, and that's almost kind of fortunate. We don't want the tree to grow too high in those areas. So we selected a triple birch, so it starts off with 3 trunks already, instead of having one trunk that's going to go up straight and start having large limbs, by having like a tree that already has multiple trunks.
And it will be trimmed to keep it.
Yeah, that's the intent. I mean, they'll have to have, the property is managed, so both internally and externally, so we'll have a groundskeeper and everything maintaining all the landscaping, snow removal, cleanup around the edge, etc. And then the last few pages are site details, which we were asked to incorporate some of the city details there, but it's mostly construction methods, curbing, things of that nature. The hydro defense might be on here. Yeah,
What's the next page?
on sheet 8.
Sheet 8.
Sheet 8 shows the hydro defense system. Essentially, it's a more or less a modified manhole that has a type of inlet on it that rotates the water. So any sediment would be spun and go to the bottom, and any floating debris, whether it be petroleum or floating bottles or trash or anything, get to stay at the top. And that is part of our long-term operation and maintenance plan to have that cleaned, as well as the other catch basins there. We did submit a operation and maintenance plan along with the notice of intent that has inspection reports, and we can commit to have those inspection reports filled out and filed with you guys during construction. We will also be subject to the NIPD's permit under the construction general permit, so we'll need to file a notice of intent, and of that we'll have to have our stormwater pollution prevention plan. So we'll have somebody maintaining that and copying you guys on those reports as well.
Are there any measures for natural drainage, like riprap or anything, as like a fail-safe for the hydro drainage system around the perimeter?
I'm sorry, in what area would you?
Just anywhere, like as a fail-safe for the hydro drainage system. Like, is there any riprap or anything, or any terms of natural drainage?
Well, the site is graded so that it's flowing towards the canal. So if the actual drainage piping were to fail, it would be routed around the building. So in this area, the water would flow this way to the canal. In this area, it would flow around the building and down through here. So there's actually the main generation of stormwater on this property is going to be from the roof. So we have that all tied into underground drains. It's not a roof leader that spills onto the ground. So it all goes underground.
Okay.
It says here that the fire department objected to grass pavers for the walkway.
That's right. So the term is grass pave. It's a type of product that we specify sometimes when we want to have an emergency access adjacent to a building, but not have asphalt. So it lets grass grow through, but it also lets a heavy load be placed on it. They weren't too comfortable with it, and they asked that an asphalt surface be provided instead. Now, where that causes us a little bit of trouble is being a redevelopment project. We have shown that we have the same amount of impervious area in post-development as in pre-development, so we haven't increased the amount of runoff. If we add this to be asphalts, then that won't be true anymore. So we haven't submitted a plan yet, but the idea would to be use a pervious pavement here, a pervious asphalt pavement or concrete. And we'll probably end up using that in the plaza as well, since we have it on site, but we haven't evaluated that. The goal will be, though, to make sure that our impervious area in post-development matches that of pre-development.
How many parking spaces are you gonna be losing for the new dorms, after the newer dorms are in?
Yeah, we have, this parking lot right here is actually part of the project, so we have this parking lot. We provide a couple handicap spaces here, and then the remainder of the parking is provided through the garages. Bill, maybe you know more, but they have a lease agreement with some of the garages in the city to provide parking.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, we meet the zoning, and there is a commitment from the city parking department for spaces in the garage. And I neglected to point out where we are in the permitting process. So we have been, the use requires a special permit from the Board of Appeals. That's been granted. It also requires a site plan review permit, and that we received also from the planning board this week. We're before you folks tonight. And Monday night, we were at the historic board because we're in the downtown historic district. But we've worked very closely with the historic board on the design. A lot of the features of the development site are meant to sort of replicate the feel of the mill that was once there, the massing and size of the building, and there's even sort of a tower feature. At one time, there was a clock tower on the mill. We have a tower feature, which is not really a clock tower, but they're study rooms and things. So we think the historic board's very pleased with our design, and we'll be with those folks Monday night.
Okay.
Since you have a demolition along with this, where does the drainage installation come in that process? In other words, do you have an intermediate drainage scheme to handle when you tear down the building and dig up all the soil, or?
Right, we definitely don't want to have the exposed soils washing off into the canal. So it'll be an excavation that's at a lower grade. And as part of our SWIP, we'll have, we generally like to wait a little bit to develop the SWIP based off of what the contractor's methods are. So if there's catch basins on site, we'll have, silt sacks on there. If there's dewatering necessary, we have the dewatering plan there. But essentially, the drainage would have to come, we'd have to grade the site so that any drainage would come into the site. And that the outlet, any outlet that exists that goes to the canal, we would have to protect.
Do you expect there to be any infiltration available on that site as you're working?
There's very little, actually, yeah, because it's a redevelopment project, and the soils that are there are actually made up of a lot of debris and broken brick and things like that. We're going to be processing that and filling it back up. So the idea was not to generate any more volume than there is now, but under the stormwater management regulations, it allows to not infiltrate if it's redevelopment, if there's not a lot of room. If we do add the pervious pavement, that will essentially infiltrate any rainwater that does fall on it. So that would essentially be to the maximum extent practicable there.
Are your finished grades the same as what you have there now? Are the finished grades when you're complete around the perimeter the same as what is over there now?
Yes. Just allow me to flip to the grading and drainage plan to make sure that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't have, the only grade wall is on this side here. So we would have to elevate the grade slightly, but it's pulled back from the existing retaining wall that creates the canal. So there's the wall there, we're pulled back, and we'd have a new wall. Other than that, this wall is the same, this elevation around here is the same, and then we intend to tie into the existing grades on the property next door.
Thank you. Has there been an inspection of those canal walls, or is the canal on your property, on the subject property?
The canal defines the property, so the canal wall is the property line.
So you do not own the canal wall, or the proponent doesn't own the canal wall?
Typically not. I mean, I haven't done the full title work on this project myself, but I know from other places in the city that usually NL and/or proprietors have reserved ownership in the canal walls themselves. There's only very few places where that's not the case. I'm not aware of any.
Okay, so the spot where you're planning to have wastewater leave the property is, those walls have been inspected and are in good condition?
We have a note on the plan that as we excavate there, that the wall will be inspected by a structural engineer.
Okay. You were mentioning hay bales again. Those are kind of out of favor now, or is that?
I think I may have said hay bales. I think I used that term just kind of interchangeably
That
with
they cause too
erosion
much.
control.
Yeah.
In our narrative, we've presented different types. We could do silt fence or a filter sock. or filter mitt, which is
Right,
essentially all different terms for the same thing. It's a compost
Okay.
tube. It's basically a large sock with a compost product inside, and then we would install silt fence along with it.
So how long a process is this construction expected to be?
Well, from commencement, we think about a year. That includes the site work, the grading, and then the erection of the new building. I mean, our hope was to be open for the fall of 2017, which means we would have to get underway pretty soon. So assuming we can finish the permitting process this month and be ready to go by the end of this month, we think it's about a year process.
So are there further questions from the board?
No questions.
I have no.
Well, I'll give you another chance in a minute. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that wishes to speak on this particular proposal, the project location is Merrimack Plaza at the east end of the, I think it's east end of the high school, across the street. Seeing no one wanting to speak, and no further questions from the board, I think we can probably close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Now, we have to issue some kind of a form here. I think the plans are very complete, and we have a couple of letters to supplement the plans that were submitted originally. Does anyone have conditions that they'd like to add to an order, other than the standard? Are you concerned about the tree?
Yeah, I'd like to put a condition down about the trees, just to make sure they have enough area to grow for the roots. Just, that's kind of, I've seen many buildings have trees planted, and then the trees aren't planted right, so they just have to plant another one, and defeats the purpose. So,
I think the green things are very important for this particular building probably, and, we have so little green space here, so I think we'd probably be looking for those to survive
Yeah.
before we issued a certificate of compliance.
If I may, Mrs. Chairman, one of the conditions from the planning board, I believe, is, I think it was the special permit, was that the landscaping, that we worked with the planning department to make sure that the species that were selected and their location were appropriate. So we're certainly going to do that, and we'll make sure, in your view also, that we plant plants that will grow. That's what we want.
Thank you. So I think we could, oh, you have a
I
question?
think it'd be important to make sure that you have the same amount of pervious area as you had talked about that you're gonna make an attempt to do. I think it's important that you keep that one way or another. And, if there's a special condition that you'd have to apply for, I'm not sure.
I believe that's required under the stormwater Massachusetts regulations, so they'll be required to do that, yes.
Yeah, we're also required to have, the city engineer, I think, is reviewing the stormwater. So one of the conditions of approval from the other permits was that they approve our stormwater calculations.
Okay.
Okay, so in my mind, this proposal is quite complete with the small deviations that we've discussed as far as the green pavement and the landscaping, the canal wall inspection, which you say is planned, so. I think this is probably a candidate for a standard Lowell order. I don't know.
I move to issue a standard order.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
Just a administrative, so what are the special conditions? Are we, the tree that what Kevin mentioned as or is it just a standard order? Just because I know that they do have a special condition with the planning board to do a landscape plan. I didn't know if you felt that you wanted to keep
Do
your
we have
condition.
that order? How is it worded?
I believe the condition of the planning board was the applicant must work with DPD to come up with a landscape plan for the site. And when that typically means myself, Judy, and Joe. So we would be,
All right, yeah,
your wishes would
my
be-
only concern is, especially in the downtown area, most of the trees that have been planted really have no place to grow, and they're growing up through the concrete, and I just want to make sure that they'll be planted the right way.
okay.
I don't know how we.
I think for our certificate, we're certainly going to be looking for the plants that are proposed to actually be still alive and thriving before we issue a certificate of compliance.
We want that too, so, you know, we want an attractive site that people are going to want to live in and visit, so we're perfectly happy to work with the planning department to get species that everybody agrees will survive and thrive long-term.
Yeah, the plan looked great.
So I think it's a standard order that would reflect the discussion that we've had tonight, as well as refer to the plans, and you know where to get the date and name of the plans, so. Okay, I think we've had a motion made and seconded, and we're now ready to vote on that standard order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck
We-
with your plan.
Thank you, we appreciate your time, and we hope we'll have something that you'll be happy with. We're confident we will. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, otherwise known as an ANRAD, and we know why now. This is submitted by the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, which most of us know as Duville Manor Complex. The project location is 983 Varnum Avenue. It's really the rear area of this particular street number. Mr. Garno, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'll try. My name is Leo Gano. I'm with Northeastern Consulting Forestry Services. I'm a licensed forester and a certified wetland scientist. The goal here was to determine the resource areas existing on the site in order to determine if any of this area is usable in the future. I have set the wetland line members of this board have been out, and we have adjusted the line, and that's recorded in new materials that were sent to you last Friday? Last Friday? I had to check, obviously. Okay, I've got a large map there, which is the same scale as the sheets you have there, and it's for graphic purposes. Again, the reason we're here is to determine the resource areas in order to further define what's usable on the property. If you don't mind, I'll...
Yes, would you like to explain what you found? Yeah, could you use the microphone, please? Push the button on the top.
I don't read English too well. This is the southerly part of the area that we're working on. This has all been developed, and the last area, and I believe a certificate of compliance for work that was done here. The wetlands starts at one side of the property, the western side of the property comes all the way over to the eastern side of the property. So there's no way that the people that owning this property can go across here. All right, now the blue line, this blue line here was in association with all the previous work because this was the limitation of past work. This blue line here and every other blue line that you're going to see here is the bordering vegetated wetland line that our firm has established and was surveyed by Noonan and McDowell. And the pink line or red line is the statutory 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. This yellow line here is Clay Pit Brook, where it enters into a marsh and it comes out on this end. Again, traveling north, this is the northern portion of the property. This orange line is the boundary line between the state line and the remaining line of Duval. And this is Carly Way, Oberlin Avenue, right here. This is the northern boundary. And those familiar with the radio towers for WCAP, they're up here. This right in here is another beaver dam. And presently, last October when I was on the site, that was non-existent. In fact, Clay Pit Brook was dry right down to the marsh area on the other side of this plan. Again, the BVW line is here, and this is the jurisdictional area. We made some changes here as a result of site walks and have expanded actually up in here between this point, which is wetland flag L29, down to here, has become jurisdictional from here up because we found a flow path. The only other situation is we converted this to a intermittent stream because there are small I would call them impoundments or catchments that hold water and they don't flow all the time. And you can almost see them as being here, here, and here. This side, we're not asking for a determination of, under the ANRAD, for the purpose being that it's not practical as far as we can see at this point to use this land. It abuts the state forest, and this is another feeder that comes and feeds into Clay Pit Brook. Aside from all of this work that was done, there is also a threatened or endangered species associated with this property and property on the state, and that is a Blanding's turtle, and it has I believe the last time I checked, it was a 3,000-foot radius protected area. That area is mapped, comes down almost to Oberlin. So basically, we're looking to have the community set and approve the wetland line so that then our client can determine what's usable and what is not based on the Wetlands Protection Act and others. That's it? Okay?
So several of us were out and did walk this site with Mr. Garneau, and as a result of that walk, we did see some additional wet areas that hadn't been apparent earlier in the season when Mr. Garneau first made his map. So is this the final map that you're showing us now, or? Yes, okay. So we have the wetland flags that were added or changed if anyone's interested in tracking flag by flag. But it does add another little, could you point to where we extended one of those near Carly Way quite a bit up? Yeah. Could you use the microphone, please?
In actuality, at this point, when we expanded it, we have overlapping jurisdiction, so I've combined it. This red line shows the change that we have here and up and through here. Actually, now, the jurisdictional area comes on to 2 parcels on Carly Way. Carly Way.
There's a little bit of a situation here that the unknown to me is the existence of the 2 beaver dams, because in the past I have been a pretty close witness to what happened when they were taken out, and there was a wall of water which I tracked back to the forest that I had no idea what was happening. Since I'm also on Clay Pit Brook, I didn't really know what had happened to have this water suddenly appearing. I don't know what the occasion of the breaking of the dam was at that time. This was several years ago. But we did have an incident earlier this year where we issued an enforcement order because the dams were tampered with. And that enforcement order, fortunately, was addressed by the beavers themselves when they fixed their dams. And they're back even larger than they were before. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least we know what's wet at this present time.
You said that sheet's been updated with new lines? That's do we have this sheet?
So this goes up here.
So this one goes up here, okay. So we
did.
don't actually have that sheet that you have there.
We do have updated sheets, if I can.
They were dropped off to you last Friday.
Could you,
Brian, they went in the mail, they were 3 sheets.
could you tell us which sheet that is that's at the upper right of your,
I have sheet one.
This is, sheet 4. Thank you.
4?
I did not get 4.
Partner in crime.
Hold on.
Sheet 4. Eight.
Thanks.
Buttons.
Now, we did have a question as to the existence or non-existence of vernal pools.
Yes, as part of this study that's over a year, I didn't find any vernal pools. There are no certified vernal pools. There are certified vernal pools on the state forest properties. But these pools are too shallow to sustain the breeding.
So the areas where there was water spread out in a sort of a ponding fashion, that would just be an overflow, or how would you characterize those?
It's a shallow catchment area that I don't think there's one that's 30 feet wide and maybe 50, 60 feet long at the most, and it holds about a foot of water, and that's not enough for breeding. There's one at the very end near right in here where it comes in, and that was too shallow. I have pictures of when it was at its highest level with me standing in with boots on. It wasn't more than a foot high, and it does drain right out into Clay Pit Brook.
Could you explain the methodology you used to arrive at your wetland boundaries?
I use both soils and vegetation as required under the Mass rules and regulations and guidance. And 50% of the vegetation or less, I beg your pardon, 50% or more of the vegetation has to be wetland indicators, and those indicators are listed in both the statute and in other documents that the state and federal people have listed as wetland obligate, wet meaning facultative wetland species, facultative species, and upland species. For the whole country. The soils are determined by digging a hole and checking the color of the soil and whether or not there are iron deposits or depletions, things that are listed again and required to be recorded. And I've submitted those in my plan, in the report.
Did you find areas that were indicative of wetland that were marked by soils only, or was the vegetation a pretty standard?
Vegetation was standard, excepting for the area along the marsh down near, what's the Veritas? Along the marsh where the stream goes off-site on the northern side. It's on the other side of this thing. Sheet numbers, John.
Sheet 2.
2. All right. The soils were typed as a Canton soil along this edge to about this point, right along here, and also along this side of the brook, right in through here, from 18 to 9. Those soils had wetland vegetation, but I beg your pardon, those above this area was wetland vegetation, but the soils were upland. And we determined this by digging holes right through here and along this line. And you have to have both the vegetation and the soils in order for it to be a wetland. I say that right?
So in what areas, there were areas then that you determined the wetland line was not as extensive as it appeared? Is that correct?
By vegetation.
Vegetation.
Vegetation is the easiest thing to see, obviously, until you dig a hole for the alternative.
Would you characterize this area as poorly drained, or is that due to soils, or?
It's not poorly drained. No, it's described, I believe I supplied the USDA NRCS soil report in there. And I believe they're type A soils. On page 8 of the Custom Soil Resource Report, it lists the soils, and Canton soils is a 422C from the map, and 37 of the acres in the study area that I outlined when I requested the report from the USDA. Of this area, 37% of the study area was upland soils, which is a Canton soil.
What is the approximate acreage of this whole parcel, do you know?
$50, 60 acres. I noticed there's 31 here. And that's parcel A. I have to turn this in. Approximately 60 acres for the whole thing.
Have there been any subterranean excavations to see? It appeared fairly rocky out there.
No, we haven't got to soil testing. That would be for design purposes and water table, things that I don't want to do.
I did get a good look at, I think, all but the earlier flagging of this property, the flagging that was done for the prior project with Mr. Garno. Christine was out there both times. Kevin was there for the majority of the site the first time we went out. It's beautiful property, but it is definitely quite wet here and there. And I've been looking at wetlands for quite a while, and I think Mr. Garno's been looking at wetlands longer than I have. So I felt comfortable with the wetland boundaries that we did propose a change in 2 of them, I believe, and he agreed, and we did change them, and they became more extensive. These were flows that they would have been under the leaves in an earlier season, but in the spring, the water rose up above the leaf cover, and there was a definite flow that you could see. And Mr. Garno was willing to agree that that should have been added to the map, and it has been done so. I don't think that if you went out there with this map, I don't think that you would find too many wetlands that Mr. Garno missed. He seems to have spent quite a deal of time out there.
The study period was I believe over a year or close to a year altogether. Because at different seasons, things happen, and the bulk of my work was done this winter, which I couldn't have done the previous winter.
In the winter, you were looking at vegetation.
Yeah.
It is a lot easier to see what you're doing when the ferns aren't growing.
Yes, but you can usually tell some of the dead ferns as to what they are and their classification.
So the importance of this filing is that there's no proposed development along with it, that this is a filing that can be put on a shelf somewhere, and if they have a proposal, they have the delineation already done. And Mr. Garno spent a year out there. You could see that that would completely slow down a process if this had to be done before anything else was proposed. So it's a planning device. It doesn't mean that there's going to be any development there. As far as I understand, I haven't heard of anything.
I'm not aware of anything positive, because this work has to be done before you could say, we're going to build a hotel or whatever.
It's probably one of the largest parcels
Left.
in private ownership in the city of Lowell. It certainly is a concern to the neighbors in that subdivision. You can see how many owners are listed down the side there that abut this property. And certainly if a proposal came in, we're only tasked with accepting the delineation tonight or not. If a proposal were to come in, we certainly would look at this again and be very careful with it, because it's possible that the wetland lines would change again. It is possible if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, depending on what else happens in that area.
Yeah. This finding is for 3 years.
3 years.
And the, you're right, hold notice of intent and work that would be done in or near the buffer zone and the wetlands would all have to be outlined.
Mm-hmm. So I know there are, first of all, are there any questions from the board about this?
I'm curious about the Blandings turtle. You said there was a 3,000-foot radius.
I had a project on 147 acres in Westford, and they found the Blandings turtle there after a 2-year study. And as I recall, Fish and Wildlife, Natural Heritage actually, told the landowner they had jurisdiction over a 3,000-foot radius. That didn't mean you couldn't build. It's to protect their breeding area and the distance various animals somebody has figured out how far they range generally.
Now, is that something that would be marked off by, I mean, a surveyor or the wetlands?
Any project that would be in their jurisdictional area, they have maps they produce that show these areas. And you would have to go to them and file as part of this notice of intent. And the Wetlands Protection Act requires a wildlife study and so forth. And sometimes the records, if they're too old, they require to be updated or they're dropped depending on circumstances.
Okay.
But in that case, it was 3,000-foot radius.
Okay.
Is this a current sighting, or where does this sighting come from?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Where was the sighting, do we know?
No, I would have stepped on them. But no, seriously, these things are either certified or checked out, and depending on the time and funds, they pretty much depend on the public. I certify vernal pools on occasion because they're on a site I'm either working on or I'm asked to look at something to get it certified.
Anything else?
No further questions.
Jeff? I know we have quite a few neighbors and concerned citizens here. So at this point, we'll open up the hearing to comments from those who are interested in giving them.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is John Hamblett. I live at 495 Arnhem Avenue. I'm co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council. I thought I'd give a little bit of background as far as Clay Pit Brook and its impact on the neighborhood, and then I had one or two questions for the engineer. The possible development of this parcel is not a surprise. Some engineers were seen out on the property some time ago, and rumors spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. Naomi Prendergast, the CEO, and Matt, I think you were there, came to a Pawtucketville Citizens Council meeting and opened up a discussion as far as what was going on. Just as Leo described, they first have to find out what they can do on the property before they look at what options they would do. Clay Pit Brook, and one other thing, Duville has always been an exceptional neighborhood partner and has included the Pawtucketville Citizens Council early and often in new developments, and we do appreciate that. Clay Pit Brook is the body of water that floods Pawtucketville. And it floods Pawtucketville 3 to 5 feet before the Merrimack. And it does that because water backs up from the Merrimack and water comes down from the watershed. That makes this entire area critical, a critical resource area to our neighborhood, because the water that comes down that hill in a flood, and it floods at a very low level, 3 to 5 feet below the Merrimack, that ends up in our basements and in our yards. So the neighborhood is extremely sensitive for two reasons. One, the streets are small and people are concerned about a large development with traffic going through their streets, and people downstream are concerned about whether this is going to increase flooding. For the people who live downstream, this is on the back of the Enel bladder dam going in and raising the level of the Merrimack another foot. So sensitivity is very, very high. Matt knows all of this, but I repeat it because I'm going to be asking Duville to be as liberal as possible in their delineation of the wetlands and to preserve absolutely as much land as possible that could hold water in the case of a severe storm. I would like to ask two questions of the engineer. One is the classification of Clay Pit Brook. He states that it may not qualify as a river. As I understand it, one classification is by direct observation. And the direct observation was that the water did not flow for 4 days. However, and that makes it an intermittent stream. However, as I understand, 310 CMR 10.00 has an appendix that defines not only direct observation, but the difference between an intermittent and a perennial stream. And the difference between those two is the watershed. A watershed of 1 square mile or less makes it an intermittent stream. If an intermittent stream has a watershed of more than 1 square mile, then it is a perennial stream. Whether this difference has an impact on the delineation, it is important to note that in a 2015 study by an environmental engineering firm, the catchment area of Clay Pit Brook is 2.2 square miles. So to me, when I read the definition, that classifies Clay Pit Brook, even if it doesn't run 4 days a year, as a perennial stream. Question mark.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, I observed and I wrote it down per the statute because the exception. The Rivers Protection Act was passed in '96, and until 2006 it was very confusing, and actually it still is on occasion. In Lowell, the riverfront is 25 foot as opposed to 200. The statute said that some mill communities, the jurisdictional area is 25 foot. All other communities on a river is 200 feet. In this case, unless something unusual happens, we're still within the jurisdictional area, whereas we'd be out, for the sake of discussion, this far.
Right.
Again, if it were a river in another community. I had this situation on the Volk School, where the town line runs through. On one side it was 200 feet, and the other side of this brook was only 25. But the thing is that this is being done only as to make things proper. If we have to go to the Army Corps of Engineers or something of that nature, they have definitions, and we fall under those definitions also.
My follow-up question, and this is, I'm seeking a loophole. The Riverside Protection Act defines the river as the body of water that flows year-round, and we have now confirmed that this doesn't flow year-round. Is it possible that the 200-foot buffer zone applies?
Not in Lowell.
No, that's what I'm saying. In Lowell, a river has a 25-foot buffer zone.
That's correct.
But under the same regulation, a river is defined as something that flows year-round. You have confirmed that this does not flow year-round. So is it subject to the 200-foot buffer zone?
100-foot.
200 under the state, right?
The 200 doesn't play in this situation.
Okay, the 100-foot.
Yeah. And actually, the bordering vegetated wetland is outside the brook area. So it's almost a no-issue, a non-issue situation, because the bordering vegetation is here. And so we go 100 feet from there. which in some cases here might be 150 feet. In this case here, where this part right in here, this is all wet. It's all wet. And the, so you're maybe 400 feet in some spots from the river.
Okay,
Or in this case, I would prefer to say intermittent stream.
okay, okay. And then last but not least, there was some confusing terminology in the report, application part 2, wetland report for 977 Varnum Avenue. There were several pictures that showed Beaver Brook.
Beaver Brook?
Beaver Brook. And that's either a typo or the wrong brook.
It's a typo.
Okay,
I probably was doing that at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
okay, okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner, rest of the commission. My name is Elizabeth Ty. I live at 31 Carley Way. I'm the property that abuts the marshes that belong to the state forest. I had a couple questions, and I have some pictures because I've walked back there with my children several times. May I approach your picture? Is that all right?
The upper half. Is it possible for you to use the microphone?
We have explored several areas up here, one of them being behind 6 Carley Way, which is the Sullivan's property. And we've gone out probably maybe 100, 150 feet out, and we found wetlands. I have pictures of several wet areas in here. There was I also found a marker. Do you have the markers from the surveyor on here? They're not pin, okay. Because one of them was right next to a pinpoint, which was definitely not in as far as this. And so I guess my question is, that was the Sunday right before the previous meeting, which was the 25th, May 25th. And it hadn't rained for a while, so how far over this parcel have you guys literally gone and canvassed the whole thing?
I almost could walk it blindfolded.
Okay.
Not quite.
All right, and I didn't know how having photo evidence would impact that ruling of it being wetland or not.
We've walked the site,
Okay.
and the wetlands don't change day to day.
Right.
It could be that you have a small catchment, but it has to be a significant criteria. Otherwise, every puddle would be considered a wetland, and it'd be a small nightmare.
All right, and then as far as the vernal ponds, there aren't any up in this area?
No.
That question.
My question was if there was a certified vernal pond up in this area, because we've also gone up here behind Mr. Logie's house, and we go out to the point where there's like a brook right across from the radio towers, and then you go in maybe 100 feet, and we found that's way up here? No, because this property line's right here. And I know
Where you
it's,
sit to the radio towers.
right, no, it's right on the edge of the marsh that the radio towers are near. So you go up along his property line here, over into the state forest, and then there's like a brook that runs, well, a little brook. Sometimes it's there, sometimes not, depending on the beaver dam. So, and it's right around here. So I'd be curious about that, because we have caught salamanders in there, and so obviously something's breeding there. And then my other question, well, not really a question, I guess. So, thank you. We do have pictures of the landing turtles. Several of my neighbors have had them
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
We do have photos of the landing turtles in the area. I've taken pictures of them laying eggs in my yard. My neighbor had one in his yard this morning. So I don't know how that'll factor into your decision-making. And then, as far as it being wet, it's very wet back there. As a matter of fact, the marsh has moved up to my rock wall between us and the radio towers.
Are you on the corner of Oberlin or?
I am on, do you see that round part? I'm on Carly Way. So, let me see, I would be, so that's pretty much all I have. Thank you. Unless you want to see the pictures of the wetlands over behind the Sullivan's
Yeah,
house.
thank you.
Hello, Gary Chamberlain, 21 Oberlin Ave. I've lived there for about 15 years, and we've been through that land out there with a lot of children. I've been out there with my children and neighborhood children, and I've noticed that the water it's very wet back there, and I don't know if it's seasonal or how busy the beavers are, but if you go out there in 1 month, it'll feel fairly dry, and then other months you go out there and it's crazy wet. We see that turtle all over the place. I've seen it twice this week, including this morning, walking up the street, and I had to kind of bring it back to the woods. So those turtles are everywhere. Our neighbor across the street, their little girl found little babies in their yard, so it's probably hatched some eggs there. So thank you.
That's pretty exciting, having a resident turtle.
Hi, I'm Matt Kittner. I'm here tonight, to represent, Duville. I just wanted to, talk on John's point that we estimated somewhere around 50 some odd acres, and I believe the last time we checked, we're looking at maybe about 16 acres of developable land after all the wetlands were identified. So to your point, there's plenty of room for wetlands. And Duville, as we always have done, any turtles, any species of any sorts, we would protect. We would, we're not here to rip down forests and fill in wetlands and kill turtles. So I just want to put that out there, right? Thank you.
How you doing? My name's Tim Dowling. I live at 38 Veritas Ave, right at the end of the street there. My wife and I bought our house about 4.5 years ago, and I own a retention pond right before the woods, and we were clearing it out of all the weeds. I had intentions for it, didn't realize what it was. Neighbor called the city on us, said that we were digging in wetlands, and city assessor came out, city engineer came out, said what I was doing was fine because it's like mowing my lawn. The wetlands were a street up, which would be in Oberlin. I don't know how that plays into anything. I went out with a neighbor. I don't go into the woods. I don't like the woods, but I went in there about a month ago or so, and we took about a 2-minute walk straight in from Oberlin, and there's the stream there, and then we kind of walked around the stream, and then it came to a pool, and basically if I was standing in the middle of that pool and walked straight back towards it, I'd be at my house. So I don't know how that plays into anything, but I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that.
So you thought this pool was separate from Claypit Brook?
No, the brook.
Part of the brook?
Yeah, it ran into that pool.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I'm Jack Luigi, 46 Carly Way. During Mr. Garno's testimony, he said that Clay Pit Brook had dried up for 4 days. I was just wondering what the standard of proof is for that. I mean, anybody could say it dried up. What proof is there?
I submit photos and a statement regarding the penalties of perjury, one of those type of
And
notarized
is that
things.
part of the,
It's right in there.
so that's the file, so that's public record. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Garner, did you dig down in the brook bed at all to see if the water was perhaps below the surface?
No, that would make it groundwater. That's fine. No, I did not do that.
I tended to disagree with, I'm blaming it on the beavers that perhaps the water was not allowed to come down through there. And I know we had this conversation that it had to be a man-made obstruction and the beavers weren't human.
They didn't get a permit, that's for sure. Yes, and that hasn't, at an adjudicatory level, hasn't been determined, but I've run into this a couple times. The beavers are natural, the dams do rot over time after the beaver, and they wash out. Whereas a man-made structure is usually maintained and kept going unless, again, it takes a permit to remove a man-made structure that holds water.
I do also have property on Clay Pit Brook, and I know there are times in the summer when it gets pretty dry down there and you see fish flip-flopping around, but I would never say that it wasn't a perennial stream. It's in our midst.
I'm not arguing the point. I took stream stats and we did it from the edge of that marsh that the gentleman just mentioned, above, previously work was taken from where the outlet off the property down below was. I took the stream stats data from the marsh, where the stream ends up in the marsh and then becomes a stream again as it goes off the property. And I had a positive result. I don't know if that's in there, but it should be.
Could you explain the positive result?
From my client's point of view, that it is an intermittent stream. Obviously, as you get closer to the headwaters of a stream, it's more intermittent, and it depends on feeders. For instance, this stream here that comes from the Trotting Park roadside is pretty reasonable at some point and adds to Clay Pit Brook as a part of the watershed, and that has a reasonable flow in it after a rainstorm.
I'm not ready to call it intermittent because of the impoundment areas that are created. Spruce Swamp is apparently its major source, and I've been told by somebody recently that the beavers also have a dam at the exit of Spruce Swamp. I haven't been up there, I don't know. So, with 2 or 3 beaver dams impounding water, I think there's plenty of water to flow if it were allowed to.
Gary Chamberlain, 21 Oberlin Ave again. Actually, I was out at the Beaver Dam a couple months ago, and I was shocked how big it is. It's huge, and you can imagine when it breaks, that just a huge rush of water comes down and runs for a long time from that watershed. So that might be the reason, I don't know, but why sometimes it always feels dry and then instantly or very quickly it turns into a torrent.
Which dam are you referring to? The one near Carly Way?
Up near Carly Way, yes.
they've increased that since we first saw it.
Been busy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was out there today, and it's bigger today than it was when we were out there.
Actually, it's pretty good because now I almost have waterfront property. But that's just one of about 6 or 7 beaver dams. I hike out there a lot. And there's a beaver dam there, there's a beaver dam about 400 feet up where the radio towers are. There's another one there. You go another 1,000 feet up and there's another one. So they're all the way up through the state forest. So they're everywhere.
Lovely.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sullivan. We live at 6 Carly Way, which also happens to be the current terminus of Oberlin. So I'm one of the, I believe, although there hasn't been any plan brought forward from the people, but believe I might be abutting something that could be going on in the woods. Mr. Garneau, you mentioned the determination of the wetlands possibly affecting a couple of properties that you didn't think had affected before. I think it's on the other side of that map, maybe. I'm just wondering if my property might be one of them.
Next to Mr. Lucci. Actually, Mr. Lucci's in the buffer zone. Well, a portion of his property and a portion of the next one down.
Oh, those are the two you were referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Carly Way on that?
Right here.
And Oberlin is near the bottom then?
Right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Almeida, and I live at 14 Carly Way, right next door to Mr. Sullivan. The bottom edge of my property is pretty saturated. So, especially in the spring and summer, you step on it, you can hear the water underneath your feet. So the fact that, from what I'm understanding, is saying that that really isn't a wetland area is kind of concerning, especially if this does change and that causes water to come back towards the house. So I do have a concern in that perspective. One of the questions I have is that when you were looking at your surveying the land and then you went back and you reassessed, did you reassess all your areas relative to the new, or was the assessments done on your initials and just reassess the areas you walked?
We covered all of the land. And just walking through, you're observing, that this commission was observing everything as you're walking through. And things do change on the land, depending on a lot of factors. But primarily, we've identified all of the actual wetlands that are jurisdictional. There are some areas, like I mentioned earlier, if you count a puddle, we're all in trouble. So the statute is what we use as a basis for these determinations.
I understand, but my question is, the original, when you reassessed, did you reassess all the areas you had looked at initially, or were you just reassessing certain areas?
The first time that the commission went out with Mr. Garneau, we spent, I believe, 3 hours, and I think we walked all but the bottom southeast corner, which had been delineated earlier for the elder care project, the daycare building. We didn't walk that again, but I think we walked every single wetland line, and then we went back again. We had made notes of where we thought there needed to be some revisions, and we went back again and actually put up the flags for those revisions and marked down where they were and what the numbers were. So that's what brought those 2 properties on Carly Way into a bordering situation rather than not being bordering. I believe, is that we extend it, and it isn't colored blue on that map. Could you point to that finger that we included? And right up there, we included a finger that seemed to be a stream flow parallel to the property lines on Carly Way. And
The scale on this map is 1 inches to 40 feet. So approximately, right in here is this is 100 feet, approximately. Because I made the changes here graphically because I had created everything other than where the changes were. And the actual legal plans that the commission has, and so does DEP. This is a combination of that, and this is the actual, but I put in the changes manually from plans that were given to me.
And was there another place where the flags were changed?
Down in here.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Deb Forgione, Pawtuckaville Citizen Council. The 16 acres that they just talked about that was buildable, could you point that out to me?
I can't because I think he might have misspoke because, well, I'm not going to speak for that.
What part?
I can't tell you because, for instance, I'm not privy to any discussions Matt has had with anybody. All I can tell you that this is only 50 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
Between.
Could
right
you
here.
just point to me the part that's not wet and not in the buffer?
Sure. Right in here. Right through here. Right in through here.
Is any of
this
that?
red line here is the buffer. This pink line is the buffer. And this red line is associated with what's below here, but is the buffer that extends onto this plan.
Is that access to a road or is it landlocked?
It looks like Oberlin is there.
Okay.
And
On the very top, is that wetland?
Up in here?
Yeah, right inside the red line to the left.
Up in here?
Right, where your pen is.
Okay. This is pretty much wetland and upland. This is the area I stated at the beginning of this discussion that we did not ask for any determinations because we did not feel it would be usable at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it abuts the state forest, which is a positive thing towards the community, which is what Duval tries to do.
Okay, so the bottom right-hand part there, access out into the main lawn goes through Oberlin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Could you flip the map, please, Leo? I think there's another section, Ms. Forgione, that is fairly large that's dry. That triangle piece inside the pink line.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how large that piece might be.
That one is 31.5 acres.
Really?
31. That's it, right?
That's the whole.
Oh,
that's
no,
the
it's
whole
this one.
parcel.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we don't,
Probably.
we couldn't really tell.
So.
It's probably 6,
That's the whole.
so it's probably a lot less.
Could you do the same thing on that section of the map and show me
So
what
that's
part's not wet?
Everything between the boundary line and this pink line
Mm-hmm.
is out of jurisdiction.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's 100, this pink line is 100 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland.
Okay, so that's not wet, and does that have road access?
Newcastle Lane, looks like there's about 40 feet between not even 40 feet between the jurisdictional boundary.
Hmm.
This is the wetland. Again, the blue is the wetland.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Dan Coach, 4 Luz Drive. Could you tell me where, you just said Newcastle, is Luz Drive on that? Because we're kind of high, and I've been down in the back there, and I've always seen that brook run. But I just was wondering where, because I don't know, could I go up there and take a look?
Yeah, the names are on those properties. The property owners' names are on there, are they not? That's.
Yeah, yes, those names are from assessors' records, I guess, or.
That's Luz would run north and south, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I just want to see where it is.
Don't trip.
Okay. So this is Newcastle right here? So is this the wall that they dump all the snow? Yeah. When they plow, they always dump snow.
Yeah, that's supposed to be doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying, this is Newcastle.
If they drop those small.
So
Could
your
you
street
speak
is-
into the microphone, please?
Yeah, I don't think your street shows up on the map. It's a little bit to the right.
I think those properties, that's the back property line that you're looking at, and the street is out front. Is your name on there?
No, my name isn't on there, no. I just,
Yeah, so I think.
I'll say.
I have the topo.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I had another question. What do the greenish lines on your map indicate?
I don't mean to be smart, but female colors, I call that blue.
No. There's like a lighter greenish.
This?
Yes, what do those indicate?
That was a yellow marker.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Yellow.
just,
Looks greenish.
my wife and I don't get along with colors. I see green, she sees some. Anyways, this is Clay Pit Brook. I did that so we'd be able to see the flow path
Okay.
of Clay Pit Brook.
So if you were to flip the map again onto Carly, if you wouldn't mind, sorry. Oh, okay, excellent. I'll keep you here all night then. You can thank me at Christmas time. So then that would indicate that there's, right where that red V is in the center of your paper, to the right of it, is that another, is that more Clay Pit Brook or anything like that? Or what is that? No.
coming up this way? Oh, this is a match line. Yeah, that's a match line.
I thought this was more of this, that's why I was asking. Okay.
I have the topo map. I don't know if you wanted to look at it.
Are there any other comments?
Bill McMahon, 79 Topman. Just want to reiterate about what other people are saying. Very wet area. I live down the hill, Topman. Get a lot of the water coming down the street, different areas. There is like a drainage ditch in the back of my yard. So I am concerned about any changes that will affect the water table and make it worse from what it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Hi, my name is Glenn Cody. I just moved into downtown. The trees in downtown on Middle Street are dying. There are two places I go to.
Could you save your comments until we get back to downtown? Because
Okay.
we're way out in Pawtucketville still right now.
Okay, sorry, I'm new here.
Yeah, that's okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak as to the wetland boundaries or the report that's been submitted by Duval Manor for an ANRAD, a Notice of Area Delineation?
Gary Chamberlain, 21 Oakland Ave. Actually, one question. There seems to be a little confusion about the name or what type of stream or water that is. Is it a river? Is it a perennial stream? How does that get classified? And then there's also questions about how far you could build or anything could happen from, the buffer zone for that. I heard 25 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. What's the statute that defines that?
It's under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, 310 CMR, and the perennials is Section A for summary. I'm looking at it right now. And let's see. Be classified. And so if it's not already classified, then there has to be multiple observations taken at different seasons, which you said you had done. Okay, so, I believe if you want to look into it further, then it's a 310 CMR.
10 CMR? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do we know what the classification presently is? I'm sorry, I didn't look that up. What is the classification of Clay Pit Brook at the present time?
Riverfront. River.
Okay. As I said before, I don't think I'm ready to have enough information to change that classification from what it is currently. But I feel confident that the rest of the report is fairly accurate, since I did walk the property fairly extensively. I feel there is an opportunity down the road to make a few changes to this delineation, should a proposal come in that comes close to an area of concern. We would then have a chance to look at what the proposal was and whether it seemed to impact the area. But I think it's only fair to reach a decision on this, since all they're asking for is a decision on the wetlands. At different times of the year, you do see different different conditions of the soil. And we did go out, it had rained pretty extensively, I think, the week before we went out there. It is the springtime, which is probably one of the wettest times of the year. If they'd come in the middle of summer, I would have asked perhaps it would be a good idea to wait and take a look at it either in the fall or in the spring. So I think they were fair in coming in and asking for us to look at it at possibly the wettest time of the year. I know the past year has been one of the driest on records, but I'm not sure how many inches of rainfall we're down right now. I know we're still below average, but I think it was a reasonable time of year for us to take a look at this. I feel, I know Kevin and Christine were out there. I don't know if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with the assessment. We walked along it for, like you said, 3 hours, and pretty sure we got to see the whole area.
Christine, what was your impression of the site?
I concur with the commissioners, and part of the ANRAD, the applicant did list the Clay Pit Brook, the linear feet as riverfront. So in terms of issuing an ORAD, there's no modifications that are necessary on that front.
I would like to set aside any conclusions that might come from the fact that Mr. Garneau saw 4 dry days. I'm not ready to admit that that's not a river. And if we want to revisit that part of the conversation, certainly I'd pay more attention to going out there myself more frequently and checking conditions. That's not to say that Mr. Garneau didn't see four dry days, but I don't think that's that's not a valid test in this particular neighborhood, in my opinion. If there's no more comments or concerns to be heard from the public, this is a hearing, and I'd like some sense from the board as to whether they're prepared to make a ruling on this tonight. Is there anything of concern that would necessitate us leaving the hearing open?
I have no further concerns myself. As we were going through, especially with the vegetation, it's pretty apparent where the wetlands were and where they weren't. Yeah, so I have no further comments.
I said my only concern would be the determination of the river, whether it's a perennial river or an intermittent river or intermittent stream. And I don't, and my another concern would be the wildlife and the blanding turtle. But I don't think that's for this hearing, if I'm correct. So I guess I'm ready to move forward as well.
I guess first of all, we could close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
You have a second?
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now I think I think we could I'm a little stuck on the wording of this, but I think we are approving the submitted proposal for an ANRAD. I think we're approving this delineation is what you're asking for. But once again, as a comment, if there's someplace on the form for that, I would like to say that we have not determined the issue of the river delineation or intermittent stream delineation of Clay Pit Brook as part of this approval of the ANRAD, and we have not also determined the location or range of the endangered species, which may or may not be on the site. So I think we could leave those two issues undecided and still approve the delineation that's proposed for the wetlands and the riverfront area. Does that meet with your expectations? Okay. So if we could have a motion to that effect or any substitutions to what I've just proposed? Motion to approve the resource area delineation.
I'll motion to approve the resource area delineation.
But,
with the two,
but not the riverfront determination or the endangered species extent.
without the endangered species, the range of the endangered species and the riverfront,
determination of riverfront versus intermittent stream.
So are those are clauses or stipulations?
I think it's just exceptions from the delineation as cited in the report. Does that description suit your purposes? Exceptions from what you stated in the report would be the yes, we would reference the updated plans, yeah.
Get a second on that motion?
Yep. You have a second? Right.
Second.
Seconded by Greg? Jeff, sorry. Can't get over you. Okay, any further discussion from the board? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Oh dear. Okay, we have 2 in favor and 1 opposed.
So we say I'm opposed, but.
Did you want to have a further discussion?
No, I think until it's settled, until we get the discussion and further testing and observations, I just need further clearance.
Make a comment. I thought I had asked for comments, I'm sorry.
Well, that was my comment. So I had made my comment earlier, so I just want more further testing, I guess, before I can fully agree to.
Testing in what respect?
The perennial versus intermittent stream, and as far as the breeding of the blending turtle and the location of that.
But we put those in as
Okay,
like clauses.
we put those in as exceptions to our acceptance of the report.
Okay.
So in essence, those issues have not been decided, and I think the expectation is that if a notice for a proposal comes in, that those issues will need to be decided in the future.
Okay.
Is that, yeah. So it's not that we have given away the riverfront designation or the turtle's habitat.
Right, okay.
We just haven't determined where that turtle's habitat might be at this point.
We do have a national heritage map in the office where there is up beyond the property line that there is a turtle habitat.
Okay.
There hasn't been, and Leo discussed that National Heritage has a 3,000 or 300-foot jurisdiction. So with this ANRAD, they haven't discussed expanding that wildlife area. That would be up to Natural Heritage. And speaking on a different situation, they've been out there really frequently. So if there is going to be an update to that map, our office and this commission would know, separate from the ANRAD.
Okay. All right, so then
I am curious about all the turtles that seem to be.
To be notified, because part of what would be under their notice of intent would be in their jurisdiction. So it would be a part of a future filing should they choose to move forward with the information that was delineated tonight.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Okay.
Okay.
I am, excuse me, I am interested in the number of turtles that seem to be walking around this neighborhood. So neighbors that see turtles, I wish you'd keep a log, where you saw them, when you saw them, how many you saw, and that would be useful information for the next session of this property, should some proposal come in about it. Because certainly, if we don't have any information logged, then we can't just say, I saw one last week sometime. We need more concrete information, so if, get your kids to keep the log, and that'd be a great science project for them. I feel comfortable with this delineation, and I hope the neighborhood does as well. And nothing's happening at the moment, so
We have to close.
we have to
We
do
already
what?
voted, right?
So I would like to seek
Yeah,
clarification on the vote.
Okay, we had
Okay, so
two
I'll change
for-
mine and I'll go 4.
So it's a 4.
Okay, so that was 4 in favor then, with the expectation that the riverfront issue and the turtle issue would be decided at a later time. Okay, that finishes the ANRAD, and we do have another Duville issue here in front of us tonight, and this is a request for a certificate of compliance for project 206-734 at 1085 Varnum Avenue. This is the 2 newest buildings on the campus, which are an assisted living, I believe, and a elder daycare building. Am I correct in their uses?
Good evening, John Noonan with Noonan McDowell. We have submitted a request for a certificate of compliance for the elder care, which is located to the rear of the independent assisted living, which is located to the front of this newer development. As-built plans were submitted to the commission, along with some photographs I had given to Christine earlier today when we had our site walk to inspect the property, which make it a little clearer to see rather than looking at the as-built plans.
I don't think, I, for one, have not seen any photographs. Which side of the map is this thing? There it is.
They're there.
So it's just this building?
This building, I guess. Okay. Yep.
Part back here was discussed with
Yep. Okay, so this is the building that's furthest in the rear on the property.
Correct.
It sits behind a parking lot, and to the rear of the building is a jurisdictional wetland, which was delineated at the time that the building was proposed.
Correct, and that was done by Mr. Gano.
So I know you had a site walk today, which I couldn't make, but I did go out to the property yesterday. And I did have some questions about the establishment of erosion control on the fairly steep slope surrounding the building.
There is some cleanup that will be necessary upon the removal of that erosion control, some raking and some seeding in different areas that where it's dirt, and it appears like there might have been some prior erosion during the construction period.
You didn't say that you were going to remove the erosion control before the seeding, did you?
No.
Okay. That's what I
No.
thought you said.
No, it just needs to get, once the erosion control is pulled up, it needs to get raked out because it's trenched in. So where
Yeah,
it's in,
no, that wasn't my particular concern. Right outside the mechanical doors, there's a fairly large furrow of erosion going down that slope, and it's actually flowed over the erosion control. The erosion control had become flattened somehow. So that's a repair, and that particular slope is very, I don't know if it was ever seeded. It's got some weeds growing on it, very sparsely, but I'm not sure it was ever seeded. Could you tell me?
Sorry, Matt Kittner again. Yes, everything was seeded, hydro-seeded late in the fall, and they came back in the spring and did some more touch-up seeding. So we don't have irrigation in that area, unfortunately. The irrigation ends where the sod is.
Yeah.
So it's starting to fill in. We have some established growth there. We don't intend on having a plush lawn. Once the slope starts, we'll probably let that grow in to tall grass.
Right.
Just maintain the top of the slope.
Yeah, it's tough to get something growing without irrigation.
True.
And that's a fairly steep slope. I don't know if is that what was planned, or is that just what happened?
No, it's built according to plan. It was either a 4-to-1 or a 3-to-1 slope.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of limitations with the wetland setback, so we had to
Right.
make slopes bigger than we would have wanted to, but that was the order.
Uh-huh. There's also another place where it's gullied out over on the other corner of the building to the rear, just to the west of the rip-wrapped slope.
Right, yep. Yes, I understand that, and, my position is to try to let as much growth establish before I go back and redisturb. Maybe you have a lot less erosion occurring if you fill in a smaller area than if you make a bigger mess, then it'll just keep eroding. It seems to be a favorite spot where water is pooling and heading in that direction, but we feel once it's established, that won't happen. This is a common, it's like a river silt soil we have. Even the topsoil is very silty, and it washes very easily away. So you need to get that establishment on there, so we've been trying to let it grow. We do have irrigation in that area, so fortunately, we feel that area will grow in thicker.
Yeah. So what is your plan for those two washouts? Would you leave it alone until the rest gets established?
Yeah, we would let it grow in a little. Well, actually, once we get our compliance, we'll have someone come back in to remove the silt fence and fix those areas all at the same time. We could put a little bit of stone riprap in that one gully that you were speaking of to the left. That would help slow things down, and eventually the grass would grow through it. But the other side, I think, is an older washout area. That was before any grass started growing. That I think that area occurred during when we just put dirt.
Yeah. So you do plan to reseed on that east slope?
Yeah, we touch up. We'll touch up seed. Once we remove the fence, we'll touch everything up. More hydro seed, ryegrass.
I'm a little concerned you say that you'd remove the fence and then touch things up.
Well, at this point, the silt in areas, not the whole site, but in areas, the silt is high up the fence. As you pointed out, maybe even spilt over.
Right.
When we remove that, it's basically underground, so the soil will be disturbed. So we
Right.
would want to seed that area, not
Right.
massive area, but just where we disturb by removing the fence, and then seed that in.
Yeah, I would almost think that you need to reseed that whole slope below the sod.
Okay.
On the east. I don't know if you think the seed there that's going to sprout, but, you know, what is growing seems to be fairly high and nothing in between.
Right.
So I'm wondering if the seed was washed away.
Well, like I said, we did reseed it probably about a month ago. I don't know when you were out.
I was out yesterday.
Oh, well, it was reseeded about a month ago. We kind of resprayed the areas that weren't growing in. We had some dry weather, but now we're getting some rain and we start seeing the seeds start to pop. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, it's not a problem for us to, I mean, that area needs to be green, in my opinion, and it will be, and we'll do whatever we have to do to make that happen.
Yeah.
But we don't intend on mowing that area. From the sod down,
No, I wouldn't think so.
will become like a field grass.
Yeah. Is there some kind of plant besides grass that might hold that slope a little easier, that could stand some drought, or?
I'm not really a plant expert on, I don't know, but I could certainly ask a landscaper to, recommend. I know ryegrass is what they always say is hardy and grows and is usually,
Might be a little short-lived, though. Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not sure, but that's just what I've been told.
Yeah.
Perennial ryegrass.
Okay, well, certainly the basic slopes and the siting of the building and everything out there looks shipshape, except that, those two areas that I mentioned are of concern. I would almost, is there a reason why you're requesting this certificate right at this point?
Only just, we feel that we've got enough growth there and that we could clean up a little more by getting rid of the fence. And we leased the building to a tenant and they've asked us several times,
Yeah.
when's the fence going away? When's the fence going away?
Well, the fence probably wouldn't look so bad if it were maintained a little. Some of it's fallen down, and it kind of looks
Yeah.
like a remnant of something that needs to be trashed. So,
Yeah, yes. No, it was maintained all during construction.
yeah,
The building's been occupied since November. I know we went through the winter, it was no growing season, so we didn't get that fortunate, season for growing.
yeah.
But, yeah, whatever we need to do, we'll do, that's fine.
I think if you repaired that fence where the washout went over it, that was the major place where I saw that it was fallen over. There may have been a place on the other side, but I didn't notice. I'd just like to see a little more green on that slope before I said that,
Okay.
it was ready for a certificate, because that, you're fairly close to that wetland. I don't know, there may be a high point in between, I'm not sure. Probably the water is heading for your detention basin at that point rather than the
Right, yeah.
wetland. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Are you?
I didn't really get to go out. I didn't get to visit the site, so I didn't really get to see what you saw, but.
I mean, it's obviously a new constructed area, it's, if you think things are coming up, could we postpone this a month, say, and?
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
revisit and see if it looks a little greener, but, right now, a heavy rain, I think, will take even more down the slope. I don't think there's enough root structure there to
Okay.
hold that slope. And, like you say, I think it's, maybe a little riprap on the other one, or maybe just trying to mold it a little
Yeah.
just so that it
Yeah.
isn't all ending up in the same spot when it's running down that slope. Certainly the rocks are not going to let anything
No.
go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we were, John had just, completed the as-built. We kind of looked at it together. We knew we were coming here anyways, so we figured this,
Oh, I see. Well,
So if we have to come back in a month, that's fine.
well, it's not, you possibly won't even have to come back if you feel that it's,
Okay.
you just make a call, we'll put it back on the agenda and I'm right down the street. I can
Okay.
go out there anytime. I don't think you need to come in for we understand what the problem is, and I'd just like to see a little more root structure
Okay.
on that east slope, and then, of course, the other gully to fix that up.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm?
So we're gonna do a continuance?
Yeah, I don't know if we have to officially vote for continuance, but this can go on the, let's see, this is the first meeting in June. Do we have a first meeting in July, or is
The 13th.
13th?
Mhm.
Okay. Could we have a motion to put this on the agenda for the July 13th meeting?
We continue it, or just?
Continue it to,
Motion to continue to the July 13th meeting.
in a second. Ryan?
Seconded.
Okay. I assume you're all in favor. So, if anyone wants to go out there sometime around the 12th of July and see how green it looks, but I think that's what it needs, is a little more time. Okay, next, would you, I'm sorry I interrupted you before, would you like to talk about the trees for a minute here? Yes. Yeah. And then we'll, I want to spend a little more time on the water wheel, this is of interest to me.
So my name is Glenn Cody. I live on 200 Market Street at Canal Place. I was walking around downtown and I saw that many of the trees are sick and dying. The bark is...
Oh, woolly adelgin on some of the hemlocks, is that?
I'm sorry?
I know some of the hemlocks over by 200 Mass Mill have some woolly adelgin.
The terminology escapes me.
That's an insect that's
What
killing.
kind of trees do you think they are? Are they evergreens or are they leafy trees?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Did they have leaves or did they have needles?
Leaves. And
Okay. And
there's
about how big around were the trunks? Could you estimate that? Oh, huge trees?
Yes, I think so. I mean, well, there are two areas I'm thinking of. There's on Middle Street next to Life Alive and across from the Pollard Memorial Building. There's this nice little enclave that I usually go to meditate there, and there was construction work going on, and there were guys with like really big power tools, and they were sawing to the trees' soil and putting all that rock and dust up into the air, and that goes onto the leaves, suffocating the tree. So I think that tree's gonna die. And around that area too, there are many other trees that the bark is discolored and peeling back like.
No, there is a kind of tree that has peeling bark that's
Oh.
very successful in urban areas. It's a London plane tree or a sycamore that, there's a whole row of them out behind City Hall here along Moody Street. So that might not be a problem, but
Well,
are the leaves falling?
Yes,
Yeah.
the branches are
Do you happen
bare.
to remember who was digging at the roots? Was it a city truck or was it a power company or?
They were guys in construction hats. That's as much as I know.
Uh-huh. Well, an urban tree has a very difficult time because Kevin was just talking about the tree they proposed to plant on one of the projects that seems to have very little room to grow roots or anything else. So what usually happens is, you know, an urban tree gets to a certain point, can't take all of the stress that's on it, and somebody replaces it with a smaller one and start the whole thing over again. You don't see too many large trees in downtown areas.
Could we save these trees?
If you could,
If
you could locate a little more clearly where these trees are, what the
Do you have a map?
number
I
of the
could-
building that they're outside of or something, and I believe we have do we have a tree warden?
I believe it's DPW.
Yeah, I don't think the city has a tree warden.
They're supposed to.
Well, I'm
Well, I
glad
think
brought this up
technically
then.
DPW in conjunction with a local organization.
I think we need to locate the trees, and then I think
Well,
somebody,
that's just on Middle Street, and then right outside the National Park Visitors Center, excuse me, right outside the National Parks Visitors Center, there's this plaza next to LTC.
Palmer Street?
I'm
in between the mills or on the main road, Market Street.
in between the mills. There's this like nice little enclave.
park, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right next to there, and literally within a week, that tree has also, the leaves have also fallen. The branches.
You know what I'm suspecting is that these perhaps are sycamore trees. I know the city planted quite a few of them around. And they often have to grow two sets of leaves. The first set will fall off, and then they'll grow a second set. So
it's not sick, it's just.
well, it is sick. It is a disease that causes it, but usually the tree is able to overcome it. And it's caused by excess moisture in the spring. There's it's not a mold, I'm not good at describing these diseases, but it's something that does cause the leaves to fall. And I have a sycamore tree near me, and it also seems to be doing that same thing.
Could the construction work around it also be influencing it?
That
I mean,
could-
I assume.
Certainly, that could be influencing
Right.
it, yeah.
Could we tell them to stop?
I think what we would ask you to do is to do some detective work.
If you have a map,
Keep
I can literally
keep an
point.
eye on these trees that you're concerned about. Write down their exact locations. If there's an address
Yeah, we don't
on
really
a door.
have a readily available map, but
If you
Do
can
you have
write,
Google Maps? I could like point there.
well, Brian's trying to find trees now on his computer. But if you could locate the trees, locate the workmen, what kind of workmen are they? If there's a name on the truck,
They said that they were working to make the sidewalk more level, and I assume they are probably done now.
they're probably,
So I assume they probably have some
It could
contract
be
with
the
the city or
city then.
something. So
This is on Middle Street, you said?
it's on Middle Street.
it's all the way down the end near Life Alive, right?
There's Life Alive, and then there's downtown.
See that park
Okay.
right at the
Could I
end?
come up and point?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
See all those trees in there? I think that's what he's talking. No, like across in that park, yeah. Like right
is it in the
there.
little,
park
in the
run by-
little park? Yeah.
Right here.
Oh no, but that has cigarette butts all over it too, so that's another concern. But you go that way, and
Oh, it's in that little park,
yes.
right next to the light bulb, right down here. There you go.
No, keep going.
Oh yeah, where all that construction is. Oh, up here on the right, past Middlesex.
Yeah, keep going.
Right there.
That.
Okay.
So, and this is where they were doing the construction work,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where they were cutting up the
Pavement.
cutting up the pavement.
Looks like they
And
cut
that's-
down a couple of trees in this photo.
This photo, oh, this is from August of 2012.
Yeah.
So it's been 4 years.
What's
But
that?
even like I was saying earlier, like my concern of the new plantings is that a lot of the plantings in the city, they don't give the trees enough room. If you just like go down a little and look at the root structure of these trees right here, look at they have bars around. So how are those trees?
Yeah, how are they going to
supposed
grow? And now
I
people
I
are
can
coming in with
understand your
buzz saws
concern.
and cutting them up. So of course they're going to get sick and
So
die.
the only really way I can think of changing this is when they go to do some sort of construction there on those buildings, or if they are going, because who owns that land right there?
I think, there's a little plaque over there that says this park is preserved by Middlesex Community College.
So that would be Middlesex land, so
Well-
they can do to their trees whatever they feel.
Well, so I am interested in where that starts, and then, so there's the park, then there's a sidewalk, and then there's, so I assume there is a line. So they're probably like, oh, well, I would be astonished if the same people at MCC who were in charge of preserving the park were also the same people who were like, yeah, go ahead, cut up the tree. So it is probably,
If you can find out further information, perhaps there's an entity in the city that could help with this situation.
I was hoping that was you guys.
Are you familiar with 350 MA
No.
of Lowell? They have a pretty strong gathering in the city. Maybe afterwards, or if I could get your number or something, I could kind of steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you guys need, well, I can stand back there, I guess.
Yeah, if there's new trees needed, if trees need replacing, then, Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust also
Land trust, yeah.
has a tree program that could replace trees.
So on Middle Street, that is the one I was referring to, but then by the visitor center, that plaza, that's another tree that I
Yeah.
noticed was getting
They're
sick.
probably-
Do you know exactly where I'm referring to?
I think I do.
I know,
yeah.
right over by
Yeah.
the LRTC.
Yeah.
In the art gallery.
Yeah, and that tree there, within the past week, it has,
Insane. If you look at how they're planted, they're not given a lot of room, and
Yeah, wait, do you want to give your name and
Oh,
number?
yeah.
And then,
yeah, just write down your name
and we can maybe gather some,
I have a couple
350
resources.
people are right in the city now?
Yeah, we started.
University?
Jay Mason started up.
Really? Great.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Your email, gcote978@gmail. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll get all those resources for you, and I'll send them over to you.
Okay. Write things down, keep records of which tree where, and that would be a useful list for somebody, as soon as we find out who that somebody is. But we don't have the capacity to take care of trees on this
so
commission.
is there literally, is it required by law that there's like a tree person for Lowell?
I think you probably have more luck with more private organizations rather than the city, but if it is a city tree, certainly
It is a tree in the city.
they should be taking care of it, and
If it's a tree on city property, it's DPW's jurisdiction.
So
But if it's a tree in the city that's not on city property, it's the property owners.
Yeah.
And Tree health is not jurisdictional under the Conservation Commission. That's not to say that the Conservation Commission isn't concerned about the health of trees in the city.
Would, I read somewhere that downtown Lowell, at least parts of it are, this is a national park, and I think it's not just the National Park Visitor Center, like a lot of downtown itself is a national park. So would this tree fall under that, possibly?
This is the issue, is you have to locate the tree and decide whose property it's on, and then we'd be able to,
Right, I mean,
or you yourself would be able to.
it's its own tree, I mean, like, but
No, there are resources online if you can go to.
the
you know,
website
the
is so
city-
horrible to navigate.
City website,
But, okay, so, I mean, you got my contact information.
I have confidence in Kevin, he's got some contacts to.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Be able
Mill.
to steer you in the right direction.
Okay, yeah, there's Mill City Grows. I know they'd be interested in this, and there's also several Buddhist temples around the area that I think would find this of concern as well. So I have connections that could help organize around this too. But yeah, just point me in the right direction.
We appreciate your concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all I got.
Okay, and you actually did make the agenda here, Dominic Ndongo. Did I say that right? No.
You did the best. I mean, you did the best you can.
Yeah.
That was really good. It's Dongo, and it's silent.
Yep.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
All right, well, you tell us what your proposal is.
Yes, mine is a proposal to set up a water wheel floating on a river, on the flowing of the river, and this would generate clean electricity. And I have can I show you the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That looks really cool.
Wow. Floats.
Now, how much electricity would this actually be able to produce?
This could generate between 3 kilowatts to 5 kilowatts, depending on the flow of the river during the time of the year. Concord River, which is a white river, it has a lot of white river that it flows between 6 to miles an hour, which is faster than the average speed of 3 miles to 5 miles an hour for the average river. So with this poncelet, the poncelet wheel is the wheel that you see right there. It's not the regular old-fashioned wheel. It has flaps which catches the movement of the water. And with this setup here, it's a raft. It's not something that's gonna disturb the drenching. No drenching, no damming. And it's a boat which is on top of the water, and it's secured with a cord, which.
So you said 3 to 5 kilowatts?
Yes, and
Per hour?
given that the river flows 24 hours a day, you can just multiply that with 24 hours
Yeah.
for the river. And I think
And so what would this be powering? What
it
would
would
the electricity be going to?
It would be connected to grid tied.
To the grid?
To the grid, yes, which means it will be powering even your home too. I mean, if it's going to the grid. And I thought about this idea with my engineer. His name is Steve Hines. He's from California. And I thought it was a good idea just to come and, seek for help from you guys, because I know, you can just, that's in a buffer zone and it's in the water. But, I was like.
How big is it?
It's about maybe 12 by 12, 12 feet by 12 feet.
Are there any like chemicals that you would be using for the gears, like oil or anything that could possibly leak into the river?
No chemicals, such that. Maybe, I won't say that because you have to do the gearing.
Right.
And the gearing you use maybe once a year in summertime, which would be grease probably, but not oil. It's something with minimal effect to the environment as far as, we looked at it.
And have you looked at specific spots along the river?
Yes, I have actually. I'm next to the river, but that part, is for city. So there's that part which the water actually flows faster, and this area, it's just an area which is secluded. Even boats, nobody goes by there.
So, yeah, like what I know, the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust has a partnership with Zor Outdoor, and they do whitewater rafting.
Yes, they do. I understand that. And where my property is a Y shape. The river comes and it becomes a Y shape. And the rafting, usually they use the right side. But the left side, that's not the part that they use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would this be something that we'd have to notify abutters for?
I'm not quite sure where the Conservation Commission, the local Conservation Commission plays in, because he wants to install this water wheel in navigable waters, which is jurisdiction under the Army Corps of Engineers. We also had some very small discussion, that he's probably gonna have to get a Chapter 91 license. I think depending on those conversations, what permitting would be necessary from the Conservation Commission would then, whether it was an NOI or an RDA, that's how abutters would be notified.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
This is on a float.
It's a float, yes.
So
it's
you
a
could
float. You can
Take
remove it.
this in and out like a boat
It
if
can be
you wanted
in
to.
and out, yes. And just, excuse me, I talked to MEPA, and they're the one actually who told me, first of all, to guys, this is the starting point right here where we are, and they told me that in case I'm looking for any assistance from the Department of Energy, we have to start from the local commission, so.
So is this like a prototype, or do they have these in California? Are they already up and running, or?
Yes, there's some. I have my laptop here, but it's a little bit slow. I could have shown you, which is, some people have actually
Be
put
interested to look and just see how they run and.
Yeah.
How do you transfer the electricity that's made into where you want to use it? Is it got electrical wires attached somehow?
Yes, it's attached. If you look at the hub of the wheel, you see there's a generator right there.
Yeah, I see
And
it.
actually that generator there's another one on the other side. So this could actually generate more than, I said, 5 kilowatts. But with these generators, that's where the wires come from, and they run out into the land and to the property where it's connected with the grid.
So is this something that you would move around according to or do you find the best spot for it and anchor it?
It's just the best spot, and just put it in there and just keep an eye on it. That's it. I mean, it's not like something I would intend to move up and down.
Yeah, you said somebody said you needed Conservation Commission approval, because I can't see where our jurisdiction would be on this exactly.
Okay.
Where you're not disturbing bank or.
Exactly. I mean, it's nothing, no excavation. It's just only to tie down the thing and.
Now, would you be leasing this, the whole thing, or would you be owning it? Like you would purchase it?
I was expecting to get, assistance from the Department of Energy, and that means.
Because I have solar panels on my roof, but I don't own the solar panels. I lease them through a company.
No, it's not like the solar, how they do with the solar, no.
Okay.
No, it's not.
I think this would be a great exhibit for, are you near that Concord River Greenway walk, the new walk that they're building?
Yes, I know they did it up on the other side of the bridge, but not that part where I'm intending to set
This
it
would
up.
be a great exhibit for like school groups that were
It would also be
walking by,
good
yeah.
for students too, to watch how mechanical energy can be from the water can become electricity.
Mhm.
I would be actually more than happy to invite schools to come and look at it and study more.
I guess there's only one tie down, and from where I'm looking at it, the tide's gonna go in and out. From our perspective, is it gonna be tied down in two places, or is that gonna be?
It can be different areas. You can tie, as long as you have a strong chain, that's all. You just need to hold it onto the bank or the river. But you can also anchor it down with the boulders. But I didn't think that was a good idea to anchor it.
Okay.
So this is just a discussion. So how do we go forward with this?
Great idea.
Thank you.
This is interesting, but what is it that you're asking of us tonight? What do you hope to?
Where do I thought I start from here. First of all, I get, permitting, to move on to the other department.
Mhm.
It looks like MEPA is going to be involved. MASDEP. I don't know about fisheries.
Right, I don't feel prepared to tell you what kind of permits you need on this.
Yeah, so we can just leave it like that, and then we can
you
start
could
it
come to us
forward.
with a request for determination of applicability, and I'm not sure whether it's applicable to the wetlands where it's going to be floating on, out in the water.
It's on the water,
Any more
yes.
than we don't regulate boating.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know what.
It's a boat.
Planted.
The what?
Dock system would be more planted.
Yeah, no, if it were a dock, we might have jurisdiction, but.
Yeah.
I think the place you need to start is with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps
Because they have
Engineers.
jurisdiction over all navigable waters
Oh,
throughout
okay.
the country. And so for permission to even install a dock, you have to contact them. And I know this is not a dock, but.
It's not. Yeah.
A water wheel would fall under their
Okay.
jurisdiction.
Do you have their contact maybe? Sure.
You talked to my coworker, right? You exchanged emails?
Joe Gicken.
Joe, yep.
Yes. Okay.
So I can send you the information.
Sure, I can do that. No problem.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great idea. Really like it.
Do you think it would be worth his while to contact, the building department or in the city? Would they have any advice for where he should be going for permitting?
I could talk to, I could discuss it with the building commissioner tomorrow to see if they feel that they would have any input on it from a building code perspective. But I just think the use of the water is probably the best place to start.
Yeah, because your property, I don't know if some properties run to the center line of rivers or streams.
Yeah.
And some, would end at the bank. I don't, I own to the middle of a brook.
Okay.
But I don't know what you own. Like, I would think that would be an issue as well, as to who owns
Yes,
the
'cause,
property under the river. Who
I-
owns that?
I think that's the city of Lowell.
The city of Lowell?
Yeah, the bank of the river, isn't it?
Oh,
I
they
thought-
do own the bank?
Yes, if you check it on Google, it says it's owned by 375 Merrimack Street.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so perhaps the city would be a good place to start, because obviously if it's not your property, you also need permission of the property owner to
Absolutely,
put
yes.
it there,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
I don't know, Christine, could you direct him to whatever department in the city it is that?
Yeah, I'll send you the information for the Army Corps for it, but then I'll also ask around in my department and
Sure.
either give you the correct information or put you in touch with somebody who can give you the correct information about the city property part.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that this wouldn't come under our jurisdiction. The what?
Sorry,
Not
unless he was
there's something
anchoring
on the
to the bank.
On the bank, or if you were, changing or dredging or digging or.
No, none of that, no.
You know,
Yeah, it's the easiest way.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. We've got the website here too with it spinning. Very nice.
Might be some energy of the future. Hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, well, I hope you find your correct path to follow that through. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we're going to get sent the minutes again, as I've asked Christine to send out the minutes.
I only read the first one.
Yeah, and it was so long ago that I'm afraid I might miss some of them. So we can perhaps get those sent again and put it on for next time. Otherwise, we're at the end. If there's no other business, we're at the end of our agenda. And motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Seconded by
Second that
Kevin.
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.